Bandage Man. There is a particular road that is popular as a destination for teenage couples to go make out. In the 1960s, an unnamed couple arrived at the area frequented by the Bandage Man and attempted to start making love. Amidst this, however, they noticed that the car was rocking back and forth. They looked up to see what appeared to be a man completely covered in blood-stained bandages. He was latched onto the back of their truck, staring at them and slamming his fist against the window. Terrified, they drove off, with the man still pounding at the back window. However, when they stopped, he was nowhere to be seen. Since then, people have reported seeing the Bandage Man when driving on that decommissioned road. The Phantom will often attempt to attack the drivers, sometimes breaking glass windows, leaving it broken well after it's disappeared. It will remain on the vehicle, disappearing only right before the car reaches the town of Cannon Beach. The Bandage Man is said to sometimes kill and eat dogs and cats. Speculations have spread that the specter has even killed several humans. The fact that this entity can interact with other living beings and their vehicles is surely something to note. The Lafayette Gypsy Curse. It began with the slaying on November 1st, 1886, of Lafayette storekeeper David I. Crocker. It ended on November 11th, 1887. With the execution of his convicted killer, Richard Marple. Richard Marple was a newcomer to Lafayette, having moved here from far away with his wife Julia and mother Anna in 1885. Despite numerous job opportunities in the prosperous county, he did not seek regular employment. Instead, the brash 27-year-old is believed to have made his living committing robberies. Sheriff Thomas H. Harris considered him the likely perpetrator of several in the area. The suspicion intensified when bystanders heard Marple ridicule Crocker, openly proclaiming how simple it would be to rob a 57-year-old shopkeeper, as he was hard of hearing and ran his business alone. When Crocker was discovered dead in his ransacked store, hacked mercilessly with an axe, the sheriff brought Marple in for questioning. He denied any part in the crime, but spoke derogatorily of Crocker in the same breath. At his home, they found a bloody shirt, a piece of bloody paper in one of his pants pockets, and tools that could have been used to break into the store. Marple responded by accusing a detective of dipping the shirt and paper in Crocker's blood and planting the evidence. Despite his protestations, as well as the sworn testimony of his wife and mother that he was elsewhere on that fateful night, a jury convicted him of first-degree murder on April 9th, 1887. His mother, Anna, was originally indicted as an accomplice. However, the charges were eventually dropped due to insignificant evidence. His wife, Julia, was bedridden at the time, was absolved of involvement. Marple's execution took place within the confines of a wooden stockade thrown up next to the county jail in Lafayette. A sizable crowd gathered outside the crude walls, awaiting for word of how it went. 30 people were invited as witness, and they had plenty to tell afterward. The sheriff ordered a black hood be placed over his head, and the man yelled out, "Murder! May God judge you all." As a trapdoor was released, the knot in the noose slipped from under his chin. Rather than breaking his neck, the tightening noose slowly strangled him to death. Witnesses painted a grim picture of the 18 excruciatingly long minutes they spent observing Marple's agonizing breathing before he was finally pronounced dead by the medical examiner. As the hanging went forward without public sight, Marple's mother, a supposed gypsy, could be heard shouting vile curses, proclaiming her son's innocence and threatening to torch the town for such an unforgivable travesty. Ironically, it turned out Marple had confessed his guilt to a fellow inmate while awaiting execution. And he implicated his mother, saying she had secretly taken up with Crocker to gain his confidence. Despite careful preparations, botched executions like this were not all that uncommon. That led to the state legislature to order in 1903 that all executions be carried out within the walls of the state penitentiary in Salem. The use of gallows wasn't abolished until 1931 and was replaced with lethal gas. Wolf Creek Inn. Built in 1883 as a stagecoach shop, the inn was a popular place for travelers to spend the night whilst on a 16-day trip from San Francisco to Portland. Along with culinary promises from its freshly made welcome sign, 1925 saw the addition of a new south wing built in accordance with the classic revival architectural style of the rest of the inn. With each passing year, the popularity of the Wolf Creek grew. Soon it became a retreat for writers, artists, and actors. The soul most associated with the Wolf Creek Inn, however, is that of Jack London. London is said to have loved the inn and stayed on many occasions. In fact, he spent one entire summer there with his second wife, during which he finished his novel Valley of the Moon. The room where Jack London slept has been preserved, much as it would have been during the author's visit in the early 20th century. And according to some, the author stuck around even after his death in 1916. Past guests report encountering London's apparition in the room where he once slept. His disembodied voice has also been heard at the inn. Though Jack London may be the most famous specter haunting at the Wolf Creek, he's far from alone. According to owners and paranormal researchers, several entities make Wolf Creek Inn their home. One such spirit is the ghost of a female stagecoach driver who reportedly died there. While the true identity of this driving ghost is uncertain, many connect it to the tale of One-Eyed Charlie. It seems that during the gold rush, one of the toughest and most famous of stagecoach drivers made the run south of Oregon was One-Eyed Charlie. As Charlie's reputation had it, he drove his team hard, spat his tobacco juice harder, and cursed like Sam Clemens. They say that he only missed work on the day after payday, when he was too hungover to drive. In 1868, Charlie registered to vote so that he could cast his ballot for Ulysses S. Grant. When One-Eyed Charlie died at the age of 67, the mortician found something unexpected. Charlie had actually been Charlotte, an orphan girl who got out of the orphanage and into stagecoach driving by dressing and acting like a man. Given that Charlie voted in the 1868 presidential election, some say that she was the first woman in the country to do so. Most of the spirits that haunt Wolf Creek Inn are benign, but there is one far more sinister, simply described as a vampiric-like creature. The mysterious being has been seen on the grounds and even within the inn itself. It boasts the fangs you'd expect from a ghoulish monster, and is often described as having blood around its mouth. Some people believe the creature is actually the ghost of a mentally disturbed person who simply wishes to be seen as a monster. Others have attributed its presence to a spirit of the woods, or to some sort of cryptozoological beast. While no one knows for sure who or what the creature might be, it doesn't seem to menace the patrons of the Wolf Creek Inn too much. Though there is one story of it biting a guest. Perhaps the other ghosts help to keep it in line. Terrible Tilly. In 1878, the government decided that ships sailing around Tillamook Head needed more light and better guidance. There was no suitable place to build a lighthouse on the headland, so attention turned to Tillamook Rock, a chunk of basalt 1.2 miles offshore. In 1879, Mason John Travas set off to the island to do a spot of surveying. When he attempted to land on the rock, his body was swept into the sea. It would be one of many deaths and calamities caused by Tillamook's wild waves and unforgiving landscape. A team of quarrymen managed to build a lighthouse in 575 days, but the process was hard. They had to rig a line between their ship and the top of the rock and use it to transport both their tools and themselves. Less than 3 weeks before the lighthouse opened, a ship sailed close to the shore in thick fog, and the next morning, the bodies of all 16 crew members had washed up on the rock. Lighthouse operators at Terrible Tilly had their own trials to contend with. The 80 by 45 foot building was built to house 4 keepers at a time, all male, all forbidden from bringing families, women, and children. Bunkered down with 6 months of supplies, the men lived a mentally and physically challenging existence, beset by frequent storms and blaring foghorns. The Tillamook Rock Light operated for 77 years before being decommissioned in 1957. Then came a fittingly macabre twist. In 1980, Terrible Tilly became a storage house for urns full of cremated human remains. Dubbed Eternity at Sea, the post-mortem museum amassed a collection of 30 urns before the Oregon Mortuary and Cemetery Board took away its license in 1999. There are still urns full of human remains inside Tillamook Building. Honorary lighthouse keepers, Eternity at Sea called them. But the rock is primarily a seabird nesting spot and can only be accessed by helicopter. Malheur Butte. Located near Ontario, Oregon, the rugged tip of Malheur Butte stretches up into the sky over a flat, expansive landscape. The strange, eerily beautiful hill is actually a dead volcano that dates back thousands of years. Numerous creepy stories are centered around the stark cinder cone. Long ago, it is said to have been a place where witches meet in secret. In the years since, visitors have reported many unusual experiences, like encountering hostile, imp-like creatures in the dark of night. According to the stories, dark magic has long been present in the vicinity. Many people have reported paranormal experiences while visiting the area, especially at night. The most common story involves terrifying imp-like creatures that appear out of the shadows and chase visitors away. In one account, the creatures were described as looking similar to black dogs, except with long, skinny limbs, oversized heads, and no eyes. Many of these stories account for the loud, bone-chilling noises the creatures made. But much of this property is private, so if you decide to go check it out for yourself, please be careful and do not trespass. Those were a couple Oregon urban legends, and I really hope you ghouls enjoyed them. I did my best to pronounce things right. I know they're not right. I know. I tried. I really did. But I couldn't find how to pronounce them. I went on YouTube and I was like, oh, maybe there's another video of someone saying this name. Nope. So I tried my best. So I hope that you ghouls knew what I was talking about. Like, I know people who aren't from that area are like, oh, sure, this sounds right. But I know those of you in Oregon are going to be like, that's not how you pronounce it. It's like this. And I would gladly take that if you wrote down the pronunciation for me in the comments, because I like knowing how to say things, and I apologize for saying them incorrectly. But as always, ghouls, the last video will be on top left, the next video will be on the bottom left, all my social medias, or on the screen, or in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.